My name is Steph Blakely. Cocaine, Molly, mushrooms. I think that's it. I don't think I got a chance to try psychedelics until my late 20s. I think was my first exposure to them. I think as most people would kind of envision it, like some weird back of a party, here's a mushroom, what do I do with this? Just eat the whole thing, go back to your beer, and continue. Hindsight, it certainly was not like the best format, I feel like, for that. I don't think I realized at the time nearly how sacred that was. The experience was relatively mild, so I really didn't get to experience the fullness of it the first time I tried it. I sort of got a sprinkle of it. It really didn't occur to me to get curious about that until much later in life. It just kind of presented itself in that way, and then there was a big gap, and then I think, later I really wanted to dive into it for the medicine behind it versus the how can I just get something from this as a temporary fix right now in this space. Mm-hmm. I think the big catalyst for a lot of things in my life was my daughter being born, and becoming a mother made me look at the world completely differently in every possible way. And I think it was sort of the onset as well of my own spiritual journey and sort of evolution of self. And so I felt very drawn to alternatives. I felt very drawn to things that weren't mainstream. I think I sort of got a peek into the wholeness and pureness of life, having a child. And I just felt like there's so much out there that can be done differently. I also just feel as a general philosophy that your internal world is yours to take care of. It's yours to nurture. That's your space to learn to develop and cultivate. And there are things that nature provides for us that just are such great catalysts to that process. So I don't remember a very specific instance of oh, I want to go try mushrooms right at this moment. It was more I was breadcrumbed, here's the next thing and here's the next thing, and just meeting you too, and getting to know you and build relationship with you, and your zest for life and your expansion around that made me very curious at that season of my life to dive into it more. Mm-hmm. I believe I did 3 grams, which is a full sort of journey. And the intention I had for it, honestly, was just to be very open to it. I just wanted to know what it wanted to tell me, what it would show me about myself. I didn't have any fear going into it. It was more curiosity and surrender, which felt like a really good place to be to experience that. The journey was exceptional. I actually had my first journey here in my home. It's what felt the safest and the most nurturing to me. And I also did it alone, which also felt very appropriate for me in that space. And it was about as enlightening as I can describe. There were many different phases of the process. I think it lasted about 4 hours, probably, somewhere right around there. I had moments where I wanted to move, and I wanted to express, and I wanted to expand. And then I had a lot of moments where I wanted to retract, and I wanted to go inward, and I wanted to feel very almost fetal, in the sense that I wanted to be in the womb of life. I had many moments where I felt suspended in time and space, and everything felt irrelevant besides maybe the breath I was breathing, or the the moment itself. I felt like as close to the divine as I'd ever experienced. I'd had some other pockets that felt very similar in my day-to-day experiences, but the thing I found so fascinating about psychedelics was that that moment was suspended for a much longer period of time. Sitting in that space allowed levels of healing that I can't even describe. It's hard to even put into words what shifts for yourself internally. I remember sort of coming out of it with this new perspective of life, of myself. And for the first time, I think I remember being extremely curious about parts of myself and parts of our existence instead of condemning them, shaming them, feeling guilt. It was freedom. It was freedom from emotional bondage. I have. Yeah, if I recall correctly, I believe I've had 4 full journeys, 3 or 4. And I'm very intentional with them. And I always plan them in a space that I can feel nourished and be relatively close to nature. I feel like that's something that also was a very deeply ingrained experience in every single journey. Was I somehow knew that I was all of this and it was all of me. And nature has this beautiful way of reminding you in every moment, but our daily life is very loud and we get really disconnected from it. And I found that in those times where I set aside that time to create a sacred environment for that experience, that nature became so integral. It's like I could look at the trees, or I had an amazing opportunity one time to go to Joshua Tree for work, and then I stayed and had a journey there. And looking at the desert and experiencing the earth we were dancing, we were talking, we were in tandem in a way that was so it was just so, like, it was all that there was. There was nothing else. It was just this dance between me and God and the trees or the mountains, and it felt incredible. I've had every trip or every journey has been a little bit different, but it always shows me something. It shows me something that's so relevant to wherever I'm at. I feel more deeply connected to the experiences of others because there's like an undertone of so much compassion and so much understanding and clarity. It's like whatever the muddied waters look like in day-to-day life, it's as if everything becomes very clear and very still. And you're left with what actually is. Oh, absolutely. Yes. I think anytime we have really profound experiences, it's almost hard to keep that in and not share it. And, I'm not standing on a corner like, hey, everyone do this. But I think that in general, when conversations come up or there's a natural curiosity from someone else, I never have a hesitation around sharing it, because I think that if you're ready to be curious about it, or you're like even watching this, or you're dabbling in it, you are ready. There's an element of you that is completely prepared for this. And I get excited when people talk to me about it, or there's a conversation that just flows and has curiosity around it. Because I get excited that people want to know themselves on that level. I think that there is so much power and healing and expansiveness that comes with that. And I hope that this becomes more accessible for people. I hope that people feel more nurtured in the process, that it doesn't need to be a scary or unfamiliar thing, that it can be part of your own just personal growth and expansion. We've got a society that I feel like is at an all-time high when it comes to depression and anxiety and mental health. And that is only one element of how psychedelics help and expand and nourish people. I feel like I have received that and then so much more from it. So I think whatever leads people to this initially is the gateway. And then from there, you'll have so many more benefits and experiences from it. Yes, absolutely. I've seen things, and I'm not talking like colors or patterns or sort of the very expected response to taking psychedelics, but I think I've seen me. I've seen the essence of who I am, and therefore I've experienced the essence of who we all are and what that looks like. And I just feel like it catapults you. I don't know how else to really describe it, but it will rapidly shift your perspective. And there is sort of an entourage effect, I feel, that happens. So, we go through whatever that initial journey is like. For some people it's shorter, some people it's longer. And there is a ton of profound movement in that. And then it's done, and you kind of come back to reality in a way. But then you'll notice everything sits a little differently. Everything in life becomes slightly different. It's so beneficial. It's like a medicine that just kind of keeps going. Whether that's mind, body, spirit, it's all of the above typically, but whatever part guides you to this specifically, and helps open the door, will then help you let that medicine into every other part of who you are.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. This was fun.